All right. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I put something on my list. I can't find it now. Where's that? Oh, shoot. Damn it. I have something lost on my to-do list. This is gonna suck. I'm gonna have to let me find something real fast before we get started. Okay. That's not what I wanted. Damn it. Almost there. Hold on. Is that it? That is it. All right. You want to bring us in?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to episode 114.
Wait. Time out.
Damn it. I was so enthusiastic.
Oh, I know why. God bless America. Let me kill that. Talk to me.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
All right. Sorry about that. Let's do it again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to episode 114 of PHP Ugly. I'm Tom Rideout. Here with me, as always, Mr. Eric Van Johnson.
Your pal, Eric Van Johnson. That's right. Hey, Thomas.
How you doing?
Just you and I tonight, man.
Yeah, John decided he was too busy raising children and stuff. I don't know. His usual excuse. Is it wine or is it fortified wine?
It's wine. Oh, it's wine that's been aged in bourbon barrels. So pretty good. Got a little sweat on the forehead here. I'm a little shiny. Trying to turn up the AC.
You guys pushing?
So it's down to like the 80s right now, but it's still rocking around 86, 87 during the day. But it's fallen. It's slowly coming back down. We started pushing like the 90s and hundreds, which I know probably isn't that big of a deal for you. I know it's not that big of a deal for my mom and sister out in Arizona.
We're about 95 right now during the day.
Can you imagine living in like 110, 112 area?
No, that's irresponsible. That's stupid.
It's horrible. I don't know how those people live like that. It's amazing. I keep joking. I keep telling John we need to open a development shop out there. All we need is like really good air conditioning, and the people will just come to work just to be in the air conditioning.
Just below minimum wage. But there's air conditioning.
But there's AC. Yeah, AC and ice. Come on in. What have you been up to, man?
Oh, the usual, doing the big development release cycle. So I'm working on front end and back end and every task that they can find to throw at me. And doing a lot of interesting reading lately.
Oh, don't get me started on reading. What are you reading?
I've been reading a lot about artificial intelligence and ethics and weapons. It's been a weird week for weaponized technology.
Wow. Okay. Hey, that's a little deeper than where I was going with it.
Where were you? visual novels and anime schoolgirls.
John had told me that he was reading this book called The Phoenix Project. And he says, yeah, there's a lot of lessons learned, blah, 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 this, that. I swear to God, I picked it up. I got about through the first 5 or 6 chapters. And I told John, I'm like, dude, you're giving me PTSD. I'm like, if you've ever, so this is the thing. If you've never worked in enterprise, read The Phoenix Project. Now, disclaimer, I haven't finished it, so I don't know where it's going. But I can tell you right now, as completely absurd as the first 5 or 6 chapters sound to you, I can 100% vouch that is the life of enterprise IT. 100% across the board. What happens in that book actually happened to me in a cycle over and over and over again. That is enterprise IT in a nutshell. I'm very curious where the rest of this book's going to take me. I'm having stress disorder trying to listen to it. It's conjuring up all these horrible memories. I'm drinking much heavier than I typically drink. I mean, it was shocking. I'm not exaggerating, Thomas, when I say that I had moments where I am listening to the book. I have it on Audible. I'm listening to this book, and I'm honestly thinking, do I know this person? Did we work together? Because he is nailing some things like on the nose. These crazy, absurd, from the ass kissers to the I know nothing but security. I don't know how to fix stuff. I just know how to point fingers and blame people for security things. And I mean, he just absolutely nails the whole character base in every enterprise IT organization. So if you haven't worked in enterprise and you really want to know what that craziness is like, which, spoiler alert,
if you're
it's not about good IT.
No. If you're getting into tech through an education pipeline, then you should know what enterprise is actually like, because that's where you'll start.
And again, it's not about tech. It's not about IT. It's about politics. And wow. So yeah, if you want to know what enterprise IT is like, get the Phoenix Project. If you've worked in enterprise IT and you've escaped and you want to rehash the good old days, check out the Phoenix Project. But man, oh man, I am absolutely floored with how dead on this book has been with some of my experiences in the enterprise. And it's very hard for me to kind of articulate it, but this book does a great job at it. Especially, and I don't know, I wish John was on the show today, because I'd really like to pick his brains about it, because I think that I picked up on things in that book that maybe he didn't. Maybe he it kind of blew right past him, because, like I said, I experienced it time and time again. I get hammered with these situations, and there are particular little like irky pain points that would occur that you kind of look for, that this author was nailing in his storytelling. So I'm curious what John took away from it, because John was all about, oh yeah, goes into, talks about lessons learned and how to manage people and how to do this, and maybe it does later.
He's got a different takeaway completely.
Exactly. Maybe it does later. I haven't gotten to that section of the book yet. But man, oh man, I can't stress enough how dead on this book is. So check it out, The Phoenix Project. Good book.
I had something along a similar lines. I've had 2 experiences with customer support in the last 2 days that were sort of the opposite possible ends of the spectrum. I have Comcast internet,
Mm-hmm.
and I found out that Netflix's Fast.com has changed how they're tracking certain things like packet loss and latency and things like that. They added a bunch of new features. So I go to check it out and discover that my internet speed is capped, like hard capped at 80 megabit. I'm sorry, 80 megabit.
80 megabit. Well, I mean, that's pretty high, but I mean, you can definitely.
But I'm paying for 220.
Okay, yeah, that's a problem. Yeah,
I'm straight up. There are cheaper plans. I'm not on the cheaper plan. I'm paying for 220.
Mm-hmm.
And I run lots of tests on different speed tests, and it's not just the one computer that's getting 70. It's all my computers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just the one site. It's every site. It's everywhere I can find is capped at 70 or 75 to 80, just hard. It's never
Mm-hmm.
going above.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called Comcast, and they sent out a tech support the next day.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's better than previously. And the tech support comes, and he says, okay, well, where's the computer you're doing the speed test on? So I bring him into my office.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a nerd and you see my office, you kind of go, oh, you're a nerd too. I see. I've got the 3D printer set up, and I've got my 3 monitors set up, and I've got LED underlighting for my desk so I relieve eye strain. I've got the microphone on a boom and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a nerd, you can immediately tell what kind of nerd I am. And so he started going through diagnostic stuff. He just skipped over the basic diagnostic stuff. He's like, yeah, you do it. You know what you're doing. And I was talking to him about my days as a sysadmin, and we ended up just hanging out for like 45 minutes.
You made a friend.
Yeah. Well, so he plugged in his setup directly to the modem, and it clocked at a straight 220 megabit.
Mm-hmm.
And
You hate it when that happens.
yeah, and so I looked at him like, well, shit, it's a 2-foot cable from the modem to the router, and it's another 2-foot cable from the router to the machine I'm testing on right now. So it's my router. My router's fucked up because it's 100 degrees in the house. And he says, I'm not allowed to tell you that it's your router, but it's not your computer and it's not the modem. And then he pulls up like his laptop, and he's VPN'd to a hotspot in his truck.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows me like an overhead layout of my entire neighborhood and the signal strength of like all 16 upstream and or downstream channels. And he's shown me like the ticket response times for the neighborhood, and he's just got toys that he wants to show me. So we spend like 45 minutes just looking at the toys he has.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a ton of fun, and I ended up having to order a new router, and that's coming in tomorrow and whatever. Great customer service experience. From
Comcast.
From the worst company in America.
Yeah, has a reputation of not being that customer friendly.
Well, and I told him like a couple months ago, my internet went down, and I called in, and they scheduled a support guy to come in, and my internet came back up, and so the guy just never showed up and never contacted me. And he pulled up a list of all of the calls on my tree, in my node, on my branch, in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, here's all the calls that no one ever bothered showing up for. It was just like, oh, I got a system for it.
So the real question is, and I've had this experience, was the technician honest to goodness Comcast technician, or was he a contractor?
He was an honest to goodness Comcast guy. And he was telling me about the hierarchy of the people who do tech, who are contractors. And he was telling me about the FCC's regulations on noise on coaxial lines. Like, we really got into it.
Yeah. I've had pretty good experiences with tech support for my cable company, but it always seems to be when they're contractors. Like those guys are willing to shoot the shit with me and talk geek with me and seem to know a little better what they're talking about than the actual employees of the cable company.
Well, so that was a great experience. The next day, I get a package, and it's an e-cigarette thing, so it's kind of an stupid thing, but there's one screw in this package that didn't get machined properly. Like all this stuff is made in China. And it's very, very terrible quality control. And my issue was one 3mm screw, just the tiniest little screw that didn't have a hole drilled in it. That absolutely needed to have a hole drilled in it. And so I contacted the vendor I bought it from, and they sent me an RMA form to send the whole thing back and then wait 5 days while they verified that there was a hardware problem and then send me a complete replacement unit.
Yeah.
And I emailed them back and I'm like, you understand that that's an incredibly massive pain in the ass for a $1 part that you could ship for 25 cents.
Right.
Like, and I already paid like $7 for shipping for 3-day shipping. Why would I want to sit here and wait 2 or 3 weeks to get a screw in the mail from you guys? Like, it's automated RMA systems are part of shopping packages online, and they're always terrible. Automated RMAs are the worst thing you can do to a customer. Where if a customer complains and you just send them a shipping label, you haven't listened to the complaint. And like when a customer is complaining is the time when you should listen the most. You should not automate that conversation.
Right.
And it just drives me nuts. And I got 2 RMAs because I got an RMA label through their automated system, and then I got an RMA label through their store automated system. So they had a fulfillment system that responded as well as their store system. So they don't even know what they're doing. Just
yeah.
awful.
I actually had a weird similar experience today, where I'm having some service done in my house tomorrow, and they called, left a message, said, hey, confirming our appointment tomorrow. There's one question about your ticket. Please give us a call back. Let us know so we can discuss it. I'm like, all right. And I must have written the number down wrong. I was off by like one number, the last number. I mean, that's kind of important with phone numbers. I hate
the accuracy. It's a bit of a pain.
And I hate phone calls just in general. Like, I really despise having to answer my cell phone as a cell phone. It's like, don't call me. Why are you calling me? Send me a message or something. Don't call me. I can't track this information.
Well, the first 30 seconds of any phone call are trying to figure out if it's a bot or not.
This is true.
Am I even speaking to a real person?
So anyways, I obviously take down the wrong number, but I don't realize this. And I call the number back, and it's a service. I'm like, hey, somebody named Katie called me. I missed her call. She's calling me about my appointment tomorrow. I'm having this work done, blah, blah, blah. She says there's a problem with the ticket. She goes, yeah, Katie's out of the office right now. Let me get your name and number, and she'll call you right back. I'm like, okay, thanks. Do that. Wait a couple of hours. She doesn't call. And like I said, the appointment is for tomorrow morning, early. I'm like, well, man, I really hope they're coming out. So I call again, and I'm like, same service. You can tell that it's an answering service. Like, you can tell it's not the company. And I'm like, same routine, calling for Katie. Katie's out of the office right now. Can I take a message? Yeah, this, that, the other thing. We'll give her your message, and she'll call you back. And it was weird because this time she asked, what is your zip code? I'm like, my zip code? Okay. And so I give her my zip code. Wait a couple more hours. I'm like, it's getting closer to the end of the day. I'm like, man, this is going to be an issue if they don't show up tomorrow morning. So I call again. And it's like the same routine. Katie's out of the office right now. And I'm like, okay, well, it's kind of important. This appointment's, tomorrow morning, blah, blah, blah. So I hang up. I hang up with this note taker this time. And about 5 minutes later, I get a call. And it's like, hey, this is Jerry. I'm calling from Investment International. I got a you're trying to get in touch with us. I'm like, what? I'm not trying to get in touch with you. He's like, I've got 3 messages here. You're in my zone that you're trying to get in touch with us. I'm like, no, I'm trying to get in touch with this service who has an appointment with me in the morning. Oh, that's not us. You must have the wrong number. I'm like thinking to myself,
you called me.
Freaking goddamn it. It's like, who the hell was this other person taking this message telling me the person I was calling was not in the office? It was so frustrating. But yeah. So hey, I want to talk to you about something. Something we don't talk about a whole lot.
Before you do, I gotta say, okay. I have another customer service issue coming up tomorrow, and I think that it's important that people who are as dumb as me are aware of it. Mm-hmm. But the default booking for Bahia Resort at Wave PHP, the checkout date is the same as the last day of the conference. Yes. I had assumed that the checkout date would be the next day so that you could get plastered after the conference.
I mean, we encourage you.
I want to say, I wish, I really honestly did believe to myself that getting plastered after the conference was the intention of the last day of the conference. Like that's where my mentality immediately went, was like, great, conference ends 4:50, everyone's going to meet up at the bar afterwards, right? And then we all pass out and get on a plane the next day.
Nope. That's not typically. So like I was explaining to you, typically at conferences, I mean, and this will tie into a little bit of what I want to talk about as well. But like at a conference, there is I would say, overwhelming majority that this is an extension of their work. Their work week is from Monday to Friday. And
so they want to get home. That's what you say to your boss. But I don't think nobody who's attending believes that.
I can assure you, in most conferences, at least all the conferences I have gone to, the default checkout date of a hotel is the last day of the conference. And like I said, I told you, the conference is more than willing. I mean, the hotel is more than willing to check your bags, hold on to your bags. But
yeah, no, they're very nice about it. They said, we'll hold your bags as long as you need us to. We don't give a shit. But check out at 12.
I will say, it's San Diego. The last day of the conference is Friday. You've got a nice little weekend following it. Stay a couple extra days. I mean, Thomas, you lived here, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal for you anyways. There is so much fun, so much to do here in San Diego, and where the Bahia Resort is just plastered with things around it that you could stay within a 10-mile radius of the Bahia Resort and easily burn through 2 days without
It's plastered with places to get plastered.
This is true. This is very true. Yes. Yeah. And the good thing about it is they're all walking distance. You don't even have to drive anywhere. So you can.
So I have to call Bahia tomorrow and ask them if they can just extend it by 1 day for me without needing me to like cancel the reservation and then reschedule it.
Yeah. And I'm sure they can.
I'm sure they can. It's hotels. They're the shiftiest people with credit cards you've ever heard of. If you've never dealt with hotel credit card systems, oh my God, they're insane. What people can get away with credit cards, hotels do.
Yeah. And you have work paying for yours, right?
Yeah. That was the issue. Nice. I already sent them the invoice for like $500 and something, and now I've got like tack $169 back onto it again.
Yeah.
If I had to sport the whole thing myself, like if they said you screwed up too late, then I could crash at like any of 10 houses in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
just so other people, if other people make the same mistake as me, because the only other conference I did was Laracon, and that was all scheduled by my boss, and he knew full well what we were doing the night we finished the conference, so he scheduled us for an extra night already.
Well, and he had scheduled the flight, the airfare, and everything for you guys. So, I mean,
Yeah, see, I'm scheduling this one all on my own because I'm the only one who has air travel or accommodations. The whole rest of my company is already in downtown San Diego.
You got to learn how to milk it, man. You got to tell them, hey, I couldn't catch a flight on Saturday, so I actually have to fly out Sunday morning, so I need another couple extra days. And
I'm working on milking it other ways. It's we'll see how it works out. So what was you had a related issue, related concern?
I do. So we have Ted, and the Ted Nugent has joined us in chat, and it's funny.
Good.
I was just going through the schedule today. So his question is basically, are we going to record from Wave PHP, and are we going to record from Wave PHP? He says he's not going to attend, but I'm sure Ted, you have a couple months, sweet talk your bosses. Beg, borrow, steal, whatever you need to do to get down to San Diego. We'd really appreciate it having you. But whether or not we're going to record. So the way it plays out right now, I mean, we are scheduled for a show on the 20th, which would be the second day of the conference. So
the first official day would be the day after the
tutorial day, yeah, the training day, yeah. The first day of general sessions, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm super paranoid about how busy we're going to be. So I'm kind of hesitant to commit to yes, we will. And quite honestly, we've done podcasts from conferences before. We did it at PHP Tech last year, and it's just an unpleasant experience for everybody.
Now, I will say this. Is that the conference that you and I and John have been to together was Laracon 2016.
No, you and I. John went to Laracon. John went to Laracon in New York last year with me.
So was it just me and you?
Just you and I, and your whole group.
Yeah, but now there was a podcast meetup in the middle of the hotel lobby, and as busy as the two of you will be, I will absolutely not be busy.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I will be doing a group doom and gloom unless I get interrupted by people who will stop me.
So what we'll do, I think what we'll do for sure is we'll make sure we set up a room for, if nothing else, for you to have a live PHP Ugly for anybody who wants to join. We're not going to put you up on stage, or we won't do it up on stage.
We talked about that. I don't think it's gonna work out for this year because you guys, like you said, you guys don't know what it's going to be like to do. Yeah. But giant run and gun thing.
Just in general, I think if we just have it in a room somewhere, and like record it like it's a normal podcast, but just make it so other people can join if they're interested, then that might work. But whenever we try to record, like do this whole, hey, get up on stage and record a podcast, it just I don't know. I've never really been impressed with the quality. Yeah. It's supposed to be fun and goofy, and it kind of is if you're there. But if you're listening, it's kind of like, what's going on? Wait, what's happening?
Well, this is already not a good podcast.
This is true. Okay, so you're leading into things. So, in case you didn't know, Thomas, we do a podcast. and people listen to our podcast. So I have some questions for you. Uh, the a lot of this came up. So I recently had a conversation, and I'll withhold some names, but I had
It's
a conversation,
usually good.
and the conversation kind of went, uh, "Hey, have you made connections or friends doing the podcast? Like, are do people kind of seek you out and want to engage with you?" And my absolute first response was, no, no, it's I don't even think of the fact that we're doing a podcast. Like, it really is just us talking. And then I start to remember, like, all the people like we have in chat.
Yeah.
Right now we have Ted and uh uh what's a Nemo or I forget their names. I'm so bad with names.
Well, we had like Dev Guy 420 the other week.
Yeah, and I've gone to conferences, and it just happened in Austin where people have walked up to me and says, "Hey, I listened to the show. I enjoy it. Thanks, Eduardo. Thank you, Ted. That's another really good one. Eduardo is always listening to us.
See, this is why we need fans, though, is to keep track of our other fans.
Not fans, just listeners. They're not fans. That's the other thing I told them.
I like to lie to myself about that at least.
No, we don't have fans. We have listeners. We have friends. But and I like I said, it happened down in Austin. Somebody walked up and says, "Hey, I listen to you. I enjoy your show. Thanks. Keep up the good work." And I found myself pivoting. I'm like, no, actually, I've made a lot of good contacts. I mean, people I have conversations with on an ongoing basis, either through Twitter or through one of the Slack channels I belong to.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say is that that names that I would know me as well. They're not necessarily reaching out to me or anything like that, but I get less lost in the Twitter melange. People like Matt Lance. There are, I guess Taylor Otwell knew who we were before we did the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that actually brought up another point. So the Matt Lance, Sean is a perfect example of people who we connected with and actually started to build a professional relationship with. At least I know I have.
Now, yeah, that's the thing. That's your job. My job is not to build professional relationships. I like my sort of day-to-day format, but you're an entrepreneur. You're a business owner. You have, let's say, a conference. So it's a different thing for you, where you have a launching off point to meet people and talk to people, whereas I don't really care. I just know that if I respond to them on Twitter, they'll see it.
And what's really weird is I am such an introvert. Like, I really struggle to approach people and have conversations. And my kids always say that I have a resting bitch face. Like, nobody wants to approach you, Dad, because you look mean. And I told John, when John and I first started going to conferences together, I told him, I'm like, watch this. Whatever table I sit at, nobody will sit with us. And John's like, you've never been to tech before. Yeah, people will sit with you. Never. They never sit with me. And I have serious anxiety about this. But,
but John is cursed with handsomeness. I mean, John, he exudes like a natural charisma where people are like, I bet that guy runs his own company. He's not too tall. You're too tall. You sit down in a chair and you're still taller than some people who are standing.
So when I went up to Vancouver this year, one of the things I did was I went and saw Sean from Lair Chats. And again, this was just based on the friendship that we've built over the years from doing podcasting. And I had other people reach out to me when I was in Vancouver who wanted to hook up and say, hey, can we go grab a beer or something?
Is that the right word?
And honestly, I'm like, listen, I was up there with my wife. We were doing the vacation things. We weren't really planning our days out. And would say, hey, I'm going to be in this area. If you're in this area, let me know if I'm around. I mean, I wasn't trying to sound like a douche, but I'm like, if I'm around, yeah, we can grab a beer. I'm
very
definitely down for that.
elitist.
I know.
Connect with my manager. He'll let you know where you can meet up with me.
But the thing is you have no idea what that took for me to even do that. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I just can't. And this is where John and I have the whole yin and yang thing as far as running a company. Like, I can sit there and do all the nasty grunt work. I can be, I can be the hammer that drops and do all this other stuff. But we have like the user group, for example, that we run, and I'd be perfectly happy just not associating with anybody. Not that I'm an elitist or I'm selfish or anything like that. I don't have the faculties to engage in conversation. I'm really bad at it. And John
I think
fantastic at it.
When I first met you at a meetup, I said, "Hey, I'm Tom," and you said, "Yeah, I have enough friends, thanks." Yeah, I'm married.
This sounds like me.
No, I know I know exactly what you mean. But see, I specialize in doom and gloom.
Mm.
I had to come to grips with that earlier this week. but so if you get me started on something, I can just go. And that's my social skill, is that I can just go endlessly, and then I have to read the room while I'm talking to see if I need to stop right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I learned to deal with group communication.
Right. But now, and you touched on another aspect of this, is I've learned putting myself out there week after week, basically, is what we do. And like voicing my opinions, voicing my thoughts, voicing my concerns, not everybody likes you. And sometimes the people
we fucked up big one time.
Just one time? A couple times. What are you talking about?
No, there was one time I can think of where Twitter was talking about us. We got really
I can think of a couple times. I'm curious about which one you're thinking of, but we don't need to rehash that.
No need to.
And I feel like some of the people who have disagreed with me, I could really actually not care about. There have been a couple that I still try to stay in touch with, and I'll ping them every now and then on Telegram or something. Try to bring up a conversation about a basketball game or something like that. I'm really I respect their professionalism. I respect who they are, and I kind of want to keep that relationship established with them. But again, we've definitely been kind of categorized within certain communities of who we are and what side of the fence we belong to. So, but did you realize that we actually are on iTunes, right? Did you know this?
Yeah, we're listed sort of universally.
Have you ever gone to iTunes? I just did this week. I didn't even realize this was a thing. I mean,
no.
It's funny because we always have on the end of the show, we say, hey, ratings and reviews on iTunes is appreciated, and it is, because I think we get moved around based on that, and people have actually submitted reviews on their shows.
Oh no!
It's funny because I hear this a lot of time, even on Twitter, of I'm not really sure what the show is about. I feel like as a developer, I feel like welcome there. Like we're talking like stuff I should be interested in, but they don't really talk about anything. And it was that's kind of the reviews. I mean, all the reviews are good. There's a 4-star and a 5-star review. The one I know this person really well, and I guess I can call him out because it's on iTunes. I don't think I'm seeing this thing anything special because it's my podcast, but it's Jonathan Wheat, who I met him at Laracon, I believe last year in New York. And again, he walked up and says, hey, I listened to your show. I'm like, hey, and I knew who he was when he approached me because, we had built up a relationship on Twitter. But I don't know when. It doesn't tell you when the review was posted. It doesn't give you. I get the impression this was some time back because he's given me props for my intros when I used to relate the intros to the episode number, and
that stopped at what, 99?
Yeah, you guys killed it. I think at 99.
We didn't kill it.
No, you killed it. You told me to stop doing it. It was dumb and nobody appreciated it. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, but that's exactly what you said.
I said I'm changing the format a little bit to match other podcasts I listen to.
So that's why, like, every now and then I think, like every 5 shows or 10 shows after the intro, we need to actually talk about what the show is supposed to be so people know they're in the right place, because you never know when we're going off on a tangent like we're doing now.
That's a good point. We should say this is episode 114 of PHP Ugly, a podcast about
developers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. We're just developers talking about our week,
just hanging out. we could do a whole story, like a flashback of Tom. Tom moved to Colorado Springs and wanted to keep contact with his friends in San Diego, so they decided to have a podcast every week.
But that's not true, dude. We did this podcast for like a year before you moved.
Which is the crazy part, because my understanding of the podcast is completely based in a false memory I've somehow implanted.
Like, when did you move to Colorado?
February 12th of 2 years ago. So February 12th of 2016.
No, that can't be right.
Mm-hmm.
No, because we started doing the podcast in March of 2016.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Were you already in Colorado, though? So we didn't start doing the podcast until you moved to Colorado. Well, what do you know? Yeah, because I remember talking about you moving. I remember talking about you moving on the show.
I'll have to look. I'll have to look again. Then I'm out of sorts.
Yeah. Anyways, we've been doing this for a while now, man. Because I'm looking at iTunes. Our first published show was March 15th of 2016, and here we are. What's this? June, July 7th. Well, we're in July 19th.
See, I think I have it right. I think we decided to do the podcast when I moved.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and listen.
Either way, I do have some actual real PHP news, because something weird happened this week.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you follow the official PHP Twitter?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't jump out at me, but I follow it.
That's what happened this week. Was it started to jump out?
Okay.
Ted Nugent says we're hard to find on Spotify. We'll have to work on that.
We are hard to find. Yeah, I don't know how you publish it. So we only publish to 2 platforms: iTunes and
Simplecast.
Google Music are the 2 that we publish to.
Right.
We publish to them through Simplecast, and then all these other podcatchers. And I don't know how they find us, but they seem to find us. I didn't even realize Spotify did podcasts. So
I'll work on
have
that.
to look. Yeah, I'll have to look at that.
So, all of a sudden, the official PHP Twitter account got a personality.
Okay.
So if you hop onto twitter.com/official_PHP, there was a big RFC voting session, and the official PHP Twitter account thought that it was just hilarious. So the incomparable RFC object comparison fails, 5 in favor, 12 opposed. Don't be so sensitive. Case-insensitive constants are deprecated as of PHP 7.3. RFC passed unanimously with 39 votes.
I did see that one.
Undocumented functions, not on my watch. Undocumented MB string alias functions deprecated in PHP 7. A total personality shift. Somebody took over the official PHP Twitter and decided that they were just gonna market the shit out of things. And so there was this giant session. If you responded to any of these tweets, the person running the account would respond back with some quippy remark, and I love it that this is what most publicly supported groups do now. They have a witty Twitter account. But it was weird to me that it just like happened all of a sudden with official PHP. Like no one said, "Hey, I'm blah 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 and I'm taking over the PHP account." It just all of a sudden had a personality.
So you want to know a little trick with finding good people to follow on Twitter? I always hear people talk about what a dumpster fire Twitter is, and I never understood it, because it's literally a curated list that you have control over. And one of my little secrets to finding good people to follow on Twitter is when you see Twitter handles like this, the official PHP Twitter handle, and they're only following 43 people. Those 43 people are probably good people to follow. And you kind of start to branch out from there. Yeah, this is I actually got a few here I'm not following, but yeah.
So the big news was, like I said, a bunch of RFCs got voted on for PHP 7.3, which I thought was feature locked, but apparently it is not. And the big one is there's so many weird ones. There were so many voted on. Case insensitive constants. Did you know about that at all?
Did not. I thought constants were always uppercase.
Yeah, so did I. But apparently when you use the define function, there's a third argument that defines whether or not it's case sensitive. And you can do lowercase constants in PHP. And I guess someone finally said that's stupid and got rid of it. So now that's completely deprecated. Again, one of the criticisms of PHP is undocumented stuff or poorly documented stuff. So undocumented MB string function aliases, like 10 of them are now decremented. Search string functions with integers as the needle.
Search string functions where integers is the needle.
Right. So string POS, where you pass the string in as the first argument, and then you pass a number in as the second argument, returns a different response than if you put the number in quotes, because it expects either a string to search for or a position in the string to search. So they've decremented that. It'll cast it to a string now. Yeah, I don't quite understand the text here, but if a non-string is passed, it will be converted to an integer and interpreted as an ASCII code point. So it would just not work, essentially. fgetss, some filter flags for fgetss and stream processing that were never ever used but were available in the INI file are deprecated. A lot of these make PHP look really bad.
Oh, but they're cleaning them up. I mean, that's the thing. They're cleaning them
Yeah.
up.
Assert, which we all know from unit testing, is not a built-in PHP function.
Mm-hmm.
So now assert will be built into PHP. That's great. ODBC INI directives that were never followed are now deprecated. It's just interesting stuff. I mean, like, seeing PHP progress in this way where stuff is getting deprecated and eliminated, and it's really nice to see cleanup like this.
Yeah.
But I was really interested in the personality change of the PHP Twitter.
That was ultimately what drew you in, huh?
Yep. All right, we gotta pause 1 second. Normally, when John is here, I can just mute my microphone and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm afraid that we have to actually pause the conversation while I take 1 minute.
Alrighty. So, Ted, what have you been up to? I really enjoyed the banter and informality compared to some of the other PHP podcasts. Why, thank you. I've learned quite a bit from the tangents. I'm glad you're able to grab something from this, Ted. Oh, that's good. John was Arjan was really helpful, you're saying? The PHP ugly John Congdon was helpful? I assume that's what you mean. That's good to know. That's good. I don't know. I can ask him. What Pornhub info are you talking about? Like, I mean, you know, he's in that business, right? So, I'm sure they have like trade mags or whatever they kind of go back and forth on. You back, Tom?
Yeah. Hold on. I want to know what Ted's talking about. Pornhub info.
Yeah. I think you quoted. It might have been my show. You quoted some statistics from Pornhub.
I thought that was off air. What did I do?
No. So.
So for Ted, I'll probably cut this from the show, but Pornhub has a marketing department that's tied to their development department. So they do a lot of marketing that is intended to get picked up as studies by the media, and like they like to try and profile their users and say, here's what Texans like, and here's what Bostonians like, and so they compile a lot of information around.
And they're also
traffic.
really quick to publicize, like, oh yeah, you know, when everybody thought the meteor was coming to Earth, you know, this is what the usage looked like.
I know you're thinking of the Hawaii nuclear threat text message.
Yeah.
Was the one where within 8 hours they had a beautiful graph of people's masturbatory behavior, and it was hilarious. And it got picked up by all of the big media organizations that were willing to carry something about masturbation. And you know, for companies like Pornhub, their model is advertising and being able to represent to their advertisers how successful they are in cornering markets. So they'll release data to the public in very, very pretty graphs, but that's their business. Their whole business is those graphs and trying to pull in marketing with those graphs.
Pornhub's a little different than the company you work for, right? Because the company you work for actually
Very,
produces.
very different.
Yeah, yeah. And Pornhub is just like the Reddit of the porn industry. You know, they're just like.
It's not anymore.
Oh, really?
Pornhub has got into the production business.
Oh, okay. I did not know
They basically monetized independent production the same way that YouTube did. So if you make your own content, then you can monetize it and make a lot of money, like a lot of money.
Interesting business model. And that's, I mean, that's, you know, we don't get a lot into Tom's, you know, field of choice.
But it really is an area of expertise now. I mean, I know the industry.
That's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say is you know, first thing, we don't try to avoid it. We don't really talk a lot about any of our specific clients.
No, all my grandparents have passed now, so I don't have to hide anything.
But I mean, for anybody in the tech industry, we know the porn industry has been leading the march for tech for years. And it's not only how tech is implemented. I mean, porn is why you have VHS and not beta. Porn is why you have Blu-ray and not HD DVD. You can say anything you want. It was when the porn industry standardized on one of these platforms, those platforms won hands down.
Yeah.
But it's not only the platforms. It's like these, you know, like Thomas was just saying, these business models, the way they make money, the way they manage to, in an industry that people are completely secret about engaging in, you know, their customer base are completely, you know, in the dark alleys and not broadcasting of, hey,
the theoretical dark alleys, yeah,
right. You know, they don't, you know, go to their neighbors and say, hey, yeah, I have a subscription to this porn site or that porn site. That industry has thrived and managed to make money off their user base for years, when other companies who are, you know, quote unquote legit or more open or more in the spotlight have struggled to do the exact same thing. And it's really a fascinating industry to study from a tech perspective, from a business model perspective. It's just
the secrets I have, my friend.
Yes.
It is.
Oh, the secrets.
Oh, the secrets. But I will actually, I am in earnest working on a presentation about the nature of pornography and the internet from a developer's perspective. So I do believe that when Wave PHP 2019 comes along, I will be submitting a talk about how pornography shaped and is currently shaping the internet. And we'll see how it works out. My perspective is very doom and gloomy.
People love that about you.
But
okay, we were talking. I forget what we were talking about, but you had me very envious. We're going to get back on the personal track. You had me very envious this week. You went to a baseball game, a minor league baseball game this week.
I did. I went to the Sky Sox.
Dude, I am a huge fan of minor league baseball. Minor league baseball. I
can easily understand that. It was hilarious.
It is so, because these, and you went to AAA. So the reality of it is, like, you went, like, the people you saw in AAA are basically major leaguers who are just looking for an opening. I mean, they have no. That's what AAA is.
There's a lot of that in AAA, but like a conversation I was having with my wife while we were there was, she was looking at these guys and saying, these guys are all 19, 18, 20. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, yes, but no. Look at that guy. He's 35. He's 40. And he's still batting, and he's still on the roster because he's an icon for the league. He's an icon where his job is to be a batter who teaches other batters how to be a batter. And that guy over there, he'll never bat professionally, but he'll be a batting coach. So his batting coach is teaching him how to be a batting coach for other teams. So it isn't just players. There's the whole management infrastructure
Right, but my point being that at that level, they've topped out of getting as far as they can without being in the major leagues. I
There's
still
there's
enjoy,
clear physical peaks and interest peaks.
yeah, and I enjoy watching that, but I enjoy more watching the double A and single A ball players, the people that are just getting into the grind, that are just learning the game. They're really learning the game, like the ones that who are complete studs in high school and thought they knew everything about baseball and figured that they could hit a home run off any pitcher you threw at them. And they're introduced to A ball and they realize, shit, this is hard.
Now, okay, but I've never watched a AAA game before. You have.
Mhm.
There's a play timer.
That's new. Yeah. And actually that play timer has made its way into Major League Baseball this year. So that's
Really?
all very new. Yeah. So that's one of the fun things about watching minor league baseball is they'll introduce new rules in minor league baseball and they'll play it out for a season or two. So the first time I saw the play timer was actually when Larry Kahn was in Louisville. That was my favorite thing about Louisville.
I remember you disappeared for 4 hours to watch that game.
I invited you to come with me, and you were like, "I'm not walking to no baseball stadium."
Okay, no, what I said was I'm not paying $15 for a beer.
But that was the first place I saw the timer, and yeah, they'll work out these little kinks in the rules and manipulating the rules a little bit in minor league baseball for a season or two, and then it'll bubble up to the major league level. So yeah, that actually got introduced this year.
It was interesting to watch because I mean, besides let's remove the baseball game from it completely.
Because why would we keep that in the mix? Because it's only
just for for a point of reference.
Okay.
Every time there was a team change or an inning over, they had like an interstitial thing where the mascot ran out and he had two kids from the audience and they did like a sack race. And the mascot was great. He was like super hyped for the whole thing. And the kids were like, because the stadium held like 1,000 people or maybe 500 people, you saw the kids for the whole game before you saw them on the field. And then you were like, that kid was sitting next to me. And you were super excited for him. But then there were these obviously college interns who had to haul the equipment out for the 30-second sack race and then collect it and haul it back in. And I was sitting close enough that I could see how broken they were inside, that this was their college internship. Yes, they were.
No.
The guy and the girl hauling out the inflatable hamburger were just defeated beyond belief because their whole job was 90 seconds long, and that included a 30-second sack race.
I'm sure they had other responsibilities than hauling out an inflatable hamburger. I'm sure they didn't show up the workday just to do that 90-second task.
I don't know. One of the things internships teaches you is the defeat of reality, that your job is just to haul a burger.
I had such dreams of playing minor league baseball. I thought for sure I was going to play minor league baseball. I never really anticipated ever becoming a major league baseball player, but I thought for sure I would play rookie ball or A ball somewhere, and it never happened. But I would give up anything, even just to work for a minor league club for a season or two would be fantastic.
Do you know what the players make?
Yeah, they're typically at the $20,000 to $30,000 range.
Oh, so I overestimated. My wife was saying these guys still make a pretty good paycheck, and I said I think it's about 35.
Well, no, AAA. I mean AAA. Well, so AAA again, those are top tier. So a lot of them.
Now my team is the best of the Pacific Coast League.
Right, and so a lot of them have big contracts with their clubs, so they could be making six figures. depending. I mean, it depends on the range. It depends on where they're at in their career. But AAA ball players can easily come in around 50K to 100, 110, 120, if I remember correctly.
But they're not rolling in it though.
Well, but some of them might have gotten like a signing bonus. Like they got drafted out of high school or drafted out of college, and they got a $2 million signing bonus, and they're just making whatever the league minimum is at their level. But they could have bank somewhere from a signing bonus. I mean, triple A is that's like the top tier next to Major League Baseball. There's Major League Baseball, which is the absolute top, and then there's AAA baseball. There's nothing.
And that was one of the interesting things, is that watching the game, there was a guy on the team who, when he stepped up to the plate, people who knew what they were watching, not me, freaked out, stood up, they were cheering, clapping, and I'm like, okay, what's the deal? And this is the guy who hits a home run every other at bat.
Yeah, so what you get a lot of in minor league baseball, especially AAA, are Major League Baseball players who are rehabilitating down in AAA. So I don't know who you're talking about. I didn't look at the roster, but he very well could have been a Major League Baseball player who's down there, getting his hamstring back in shape so that he can go back.
And I think he was. And that's the thing. Like I believe I saw 18 pitchers that game. They cycled through pitchers so frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And there were weird things like there was a real bad run of walks on base where a guy loaded the bases.
Mm-hmm.
And typically manager signals the catcher and the manager meet up with the guy at the mound. But like the whole team came in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they put 15 minutes on the clock or something where the whole team just had a powwow about like what is the reason for this bad pitching run? What is the impact of a bad pitching run? How does this shape the outfield? And when a pitcher is clearly struggling, what does the outfield have to do to compensate for it? And like you just saw these learning behaviors. It wasn't professional in the way that professional is like an oiled machine that just operates. It was professional in the way of like, we are educating all of the people on the field on how to do this job most effectively. There were really interesting points in the game where you just sort of go, I wonder what it is that literally everyone's talking about, including people from the other team.
And it's funny because that's where I'm at in my cycle with baseball. I just recently stopped playing. I had a string of health issues a few years back that just really put a tear on my body, and I tried to get back out in the field, and it just hurt.
Do you mean your testicles?
Yeah, they were involved in everything. Yes.
I feel like that doesn't get enough coverage on the podcast.
I don't think we've ever talked about.
I don't think we ever have.
My bout with cancer, no. But we can talk about that some other day. But I definitely, now that I don't play anymore, I have definitely have gotten to the point where I appreciate the game a lot more, and I appreciate the strategies and the thought that goes into things like pitching changes and how particular hitters pitched. And I think I enjoy watching baseball now 100 times more than I did as a kid. I used to hate watching baseball. I had to play it. I love playing it, and I had to play it, but I couldn't watch it. Now I can watch it. Now I have an appreciation for it.
So here's the worst part of the whole saga, and I say worst part because I'm projecting my perspective onto my wife. Is that we had watched Moneyball not 5 days before we went and saw this game.
Okay.
And so I, in my brilliant wisdom and autism, could not help but explain to her everything that was happening in the game and how it related to the movie that we had watched. And I caught myself doing it, could not stop myself. I am just and she, her facial, she's managed the facial expressions to tell me, I don't care or already know what you're talking about. And I've managed to block those out from my cognitive ability and just steamrolled straight over that and said, I know you don't care, but I need to get this out.
So let me ask you a question. How did you guys end up there? Because I know you're not a big sports fan.
You know that I'm a massive TV movie pirate.
Yeah.
So when I go to the bar and there's advertisements on TV, I am enraptured. Advertisements are a thing I never ever see. And there's an ad for the game. Like there's local ads on the bar TVs. There's 50 something bar TVs. And I keep seeing Sky Stocks. I know the stadium is literally 10 minutes away. I could not possibly have an anxiety attack that I couldn't resolve from that distance. Like if I needed to go, then that's fine. I could drive home and drive back. It's not a problem. For people who don't know, I have agoraphobia and crippling anxiety. And I just said, like, the ad showed up and it said $2 Tuesdays. And I was like, hey, you know what? If I want to make a gesture of outreach to my wife and children, then I will take them to a baseball game where I am not put in any precarious situation whatsoever, and it will cost me $7.
Awesome.
That's how I structure my life.
All right.
Unfortunately, I had to go to Denver on Saturday, and that did not work out nearly as well.
So the big question, are you going to go back to another game? Absolutely. Oh, cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, if I get out there, you and I are going to a ball game.
Oh, 100%. It was a ton of fun. And like I said, I structure my activities on levels of stress that they produce, and it was a zero stress activity. It was so easy to just like sit down in a stadium that was as big as the band concert hall at my high school, my kids' high school. I had no problem doing it. So for me, that's an activity that I can engage in. That's like a real actual person activity without driving myself insane.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% on board with anything I can do that makes me look like a normal person.
All right, Mr. Rideout, we're running along. If you got any doom and gloom, you might want to throw it out there now.
I don't have doom and gloom, but what I do have is an interesting story about 3D printing guns.
Okay. I think this is actually a very big deal and something that we're going to have to figure out how we're going to address as a country very soon.
So the big story is that what happened is absolutely not a big deal, but every media organization has picked up on it and acted like it's a big deal. And
okay,
I'm not
to explain.
I'm not one of the anti-media people. I believe journalism is the foundation of American democracy. But there's a glut. There's a problem in America with sensationalist journalism.
I think I mean, I know this is not what your story is about. I think journalism has turned very poorly when it realized it had to compete against the internet, and that need for viewers, that need for viewership has really tainted what journalism should be.
Unfortunately, it goes back a little bit further than that. It goes to 1997. I don't want to get all the way into it, but CNN was established during Operation Desert Shield, and had something to cover 24/7. And then after Desert Storm ended, 3 more networks had popped up doing 24-hour news journalism, discovered that there was nothing left to cover every day. And so they had to fill it in with op-ed. And what most people don't understand is that op-ed is not news, it's opinion, and the person presenting it has no authority whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And so it turned into a marketing machine that is just a living nightmare. However, the issue at hand is Cody Wilson.
Okay.
Some years back, a guy named Cody Wilson decided he was going to try and develop a 3D printable gun. His motivations for this were reportedly to test the understanding of 3D printing, manufacturing, and the law as it came to firearms and weaponry. He wanted to show that something was technically possible, as well as a big concern legally, where we treat the Second Amendment as biblical.
I was about to say we should note that this was here in the U.S. And here in the U.S., a lot of people might not realize this, even people here in the U.S., but there are very few restrictions or regulations behind you fabricating your own gun. So there are kits you can go out and buy to assemble just about any gun you could want to assemble, and it's perfectly legal. You can make your own gun. I mean, it's not this big, kooky scientific experiment to make a gun. If you're a good machinist, you can make yourself a gun. And as U.S. citizens, you're allowed to do that. I realize that doesn't hold true across the board. The issue with there was always this perceived barrier of entry to building your own guns. Like I said, you had to be a fairly skilled machinist if you wanted just to do this in your garage. And the issue with 3D printing became, well, you don't really need to know anything you're doing at all. You just need a CAD schematic, and any child can print a gun and take it to school. And that's where a lot of this kind of starts to say, okay, well, what are the rules and regulations about this?
Yeah, and actually, you're in California, where there are some rules about self-manufacture of weapons. In the majority of states, self-manufacture of weapons is considered a Second Amendment right, and there are no regulations whatsoever.
Yep.
So I need to find the name of the gun, because it's relevant. It's actually relevant to the story, and also I need to tell my wife to feed the cats, because I'm sure it's coming up on microphone.
Yeah, we can hear the cats. I think it's cute that you think your wife is there at the house with you. You haven't come to that realization yet, have you? That's too sad.
It's a little lie I tell myself. She's still here. I love her so much.
What the people listening to the show need to realize is his wife now is one of the cats.
Whoa, well, no, okay. Reel it back a little. I'm not doing that. The name of the gun, I believe it's the Validator. Yes. Really loud cats.
Okay, I can hear.
But like I said, the important thing here was the testing of the existing laws versus the implementations of new technology and how they would affect things like weapons. Fortunately, weapons exporting is a well-covered thing. 3D printed weapons are grossly ineffective.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, the Liberator, that's the name. 3D printed weapons are grossly ineffective. Each round requires its own 3D printed barrel, and that's using very high density prints that take a long time and might still kill you. And not all components are 3D printed. You still need a firing pin, and you still need a bullet. But the issue here was that when this happened, the US government essentially said, you are exporting plans for a weapon that you have designed to foreign countries.
Mhm.
Any newly designed gun whose manufacturer is publicized has to go through the ITAR process. And so the information on how to build this gun was pulled pending ITAR 22 CRF 125.4 Section 13, technical data approved for public release, i.e. unlimited distribution by the cognizant U.S. government, department, or agency, It was really, really, really a matter of law that newly designed weapons have to be approved for wide release. The settlement results stated that the United States government approved release for designs of this weapon, and so the designs are back online. It doesn't mean that printing a plastic ghost, quote unquote, ghost gun without a serial number or anything is any different than it was before. This was a matter of international issue. This was a matter of releasing a weapon design to international agencies. Literally nothing has changed. There's no precedence being set by this. There's no law having been changed. The design for the gun is available again on the internet as of August 1st because designs for guns are not inherently illegal. They just have to go through an approval process. A lot of news organizations are covering this as 3D printed gun is legitimized, 3D printed gun available at home, 3D printed gun back on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. For an American citizen, it means literally nothing has changed whatsoever, except that the internet is a worldwide distribution platform, so that's the place you can get it again.
When are you printing yours?
Never. I am very much bothered by every 3D printing gun related thing I see. I understand the compulsion, which is why I like Nerf guns. I understand that there is a human response to the thing that guns do, which is explode in your hands and then destroy something a mile away. It's fucking cool. I love it. I've done it. I love doing it. But when I see 3D printing of guns being discussed for the sake of I don't want to be tracked by my government, it never smells right to me. It always smells real wrong.
What do you mean?
Like a code smell. Like when a guy on a 3D printing forum says, I'm really interested in making untraceable lower AR receivers, which is the part that needs to be serialized if you're going to be selling it or distributing it in any way in America. I think to myself, okay, so it's not the fun part. It's not the home protection part. What part is it you're doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to go undetectable ghost mode? I mean, like if you look up ghost guns, that's where the 3D printing gun community is at. Ghost Guns is a company that makes 3D printers and CNC machines for the purpose of producing guns that don't have a serial number. And I look at that and I go, that's fucked up. Like, it's a gunsmithing provider. It's like a gunsmithing tool shop for the purpose of circumventing tracking legitimate gun production. And you look at it and you're like, okay, but why? Like, not every one of these guys is in a militia that has a legitimate grievance against the government, and even those are usually on the negative end of the spectrum. Like, our printers. Did you know that inkjet printers print a yellow matrices in the bottom right corner that says what printer serial number this page was printed on?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did know that.
But guns don't necessarily need a serial number.
No tracking.
Right.
I mean, that's like
I understand the compulsion, but fight that compulsion because that's fucked up.
Okay. Yeah, well, we definitely don't have time to get into all that.
No, I know you have differing opinions, and I've been.
No. I mean, you'd be surprised how much I don't really have different opinions, but I do understand the other side's argument, and it's a legitimate argument.
So it was until automatic weapons were made illegal.
All right, so listen, you kind of you spent a long time on that one, but you did bring up something else I wanted, which is kind of doom and gloomy as well.
I love it. I love when you do this. I love when you get doom and gloom on me.
I know. Well, because I feel like I was right about something, and I always get yelled at because I'm like, "Oh, Eric, you don't understand. You're a dick." Da 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 da.
Those are two different statements.
And when a while back, and we talked about it on the show, we don't have to rehash the whole thing, but there was some controversy around white supremacy and their role on Facebook, and whether Facebook should step in and do something to prevent that. Facebook basically started shutting down white supremacists and white supremacist groups pages, and everybody was hailing Facebook and saying, "Oh, that this is great." And I actually stood up and I'm like, "Yeah, this seems all obvious, and everybody loves it when everybody agrees on it. But what's going to happen when somebody doesn't agree with Facebook's opinion on something?" And that kind of came up this week. I guess Mark Zuckerberg is saying that is basically coming out saying, "Listen, we're not going to ban Holocaust deniers. We're not going to start banning these." I don't know if all the listeners are familiar with these Sandy Hook truthers who basically say Sandy Hook was a government conspiracy.
Right,
it never happened. Right. And Facebook is basically saying, we're not going to ban we're not going to ban these groups. And now people are like getting upset. They're like, well, hey, you ban these white supremacists, you should be banning these people. And I'm telling you, they're sitting on a keg of dynamite that's going to just blow their asses off, because they're and unfortunately they're in a no-win situation. There is no right answer here.
No, they're not. They're in a win-win situation.
No, I disagree. How do you see that?
Because they're not a government organization. They're not held to First Amendment restrictions.
Right.
Impose your own beliefs.
That's
End
what
of story.
Said.
I think Zuckerberg is being criticized because he won't impose his own political beliefs on the platform. Now, what he said with Holocaust deniers was that people who are ignorant are different than people who are willfully wrong. People who are intentionally spreading misinformation are different than people who are unintentionally spreading misinformation.
This is where I start to say, well, I think white supremacists are ignorant. I think they're They were
agree.
born
I agree.
and raised ignorant people.
Ignorance is the foundation of their belief system. You cannot excuse them for being ignorant. I agree 100%. He should be imposing his own beliefs on the platform and stating very clearly, if you are wrong about certain things that I care about, you're gone. And I don't care how many people scream First Amendment rights, they're fucking wrong. They don't have First Amendment rights on somebody else's platform. And the criticism against him is that he is being spineless, that he is favoring money over progression or progressiveness or faith or any of those things. And his sister is speaking out against him as well. His sister's gone public today, and I haven't gone over the whole story with her interview, but
I didn't even see
no, I think what he's doing is bullshit. He's saying advertising revenue is more important than ideology. And I don't care if your ideology is right or wrong. If you're willing to sell your ideology, it's wrong. If you think people are inferior to others, but somebody could buy your opinion, then what you believe is money is superior to everything.
You just reminded me of something, and I realized I didn't bookmark it, and I don't want to put it out there as a straw man or anything, but I came across a video this week of a fake lobbyist group that were getting politicians to do videos to encourage.
Oh yeah, What is America? There's Sacha Baron Cohen's new show where he was getting.
And they were talking about
compromise themselves.
Arming
toddlers.
Arming toddlers. That's it. You've seen this.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievably, there were politicians doing it.
It's not unbelievable, though. Have you seen the hot redhead? Have you seen the hot redhead spy?
Mm-mm. Oh, is this? Are you going to tell me the picture from the Oval Office?
No, this the Russian spy who infiltrated the NRA and slept her way to the top, to the point that she met with all of the significant Republican evangelicals and congressmen, and even met the president and spoke to him on behalf of the NRA, but she turned out to be a Russian operative. She got arrested.
I'm telling you, there's a picture of her in the Oval Office with Trump.
That was a misunderstanding where a reporter thought that it was the same person, but it wasn't. And now all journalism is fake because this one journalist saw a picture and it looked like the same person, but it wasn't.
Ted Nugent just posted the name in chat. Maria
Butina. Yeah, it's dark times for politics right now. Where,
man, this is bad. Yeah.
You just wait, because what they did was arrest her and collect everything from her home, and they announced that she had slept with a significant number of people for the purpose of political gain. What they didn't announce was that the Russian system of training spies was to establish compromat and to record all sexual interactions for the purpose of blackmailing everyone you ever interacted with, and that she met with evangelicals and Republicans at the highest level and probably has recorded video of her sleeping with all of them.
Interesting.
Fascinating.
All right. That's all I can do. That's the best I can do to help you with your doom and gloom.
Thank you, though.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You brought it to a new level. I wasn't thinking we were going to go there today.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. We are way over. So that's going to do it for episode 114, is it? Is
114?
Wow. All right, that's it. 114 is in the books. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon.
Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Oh, and I got a cat. Look at that. Ah, kitty.
Ah. You're
I'm
lucky
stopping
your cats are
recording.
so affectionate.
Ted, thank you for hanging out with us today, man. It was a good time. Appreciate it. I'm going to be stopping the broadcast now. Yes, I'm stopping the broadcast now. Come in.